Hello and welcome. This video about Lightroom Classic and Lightroom CC 2023, which was released in October of 2022, will be about the most large changes, the biggest changes to the software, which is around the automatic masking features for portrait photography type use. So this video is going to be all about that. I do have two other videos that show the interface for 2023 with some other of the selective adjustment tools, and I'll link to those videos down below. So we're going to do some portrait edits, which combine the new AI masking features, artificial intelligent masking features, with some of the other selective adjustment tools to kind of show the whole cohesive, integrated portrait editing approach in Lightroom. So here we go. So with this photo, we're going to start taking advantage of the really powerful and quick to use masking tools that will set you up for editing the individual parts of a person's face or their skin or their body or their hair. All those things can be separately and quickly masked with the new tools in Lightroom Classic and Lightroom CC for 2023, which just makes portrait editing so much faster, so much easier. So we're going to get started by jumping into the toolbar and heading to the mask panel. And you'll notice at the mask panel now at the bottom, it sees a person. So anytime there's a face in your photo, it's going to show that person as an individual. I'll show you later on how it will treat two different people separately, but we'll start with this one here. I want to create separation of the subject from the background. So the first thing I'm actually going to do in this photo is to darken the background a little bit and reduce saturation there. So we're going to start with the background tool, the background mask, and it's selected that. And so what I'm going to do there quickly is just darken that a little bit, pull down the highlights as well, pull down the whites, and decrease saturation just a little bit to pull some of the attention away from there. So that's our start for the first mask. Our next mask, you'll notice now I still have the masking panel open, but I don't have the people mask option. So what I do is go up to create mask, select people, and there it is. So now I'll click on person one, her name is Carrie. And once I have done that, now I have these options. I can do the entire person, there that is. I can do face, skin, each of these individually, or all at once. So here's how this works. So what I want is her face skin, her body skin. I'm not going to do anything with her eyebrows for this. The eye sclera, which is the whites of the eyes, iris and pupil, teeth, and hair. So I've got all of those, and I have selected the option, check this box, which will create 6 separate masks, individual masks for each of these options. So I'm going to click Create Mask. And then the masks, unfortunately, are not named, but if you click on the mask, it will tell you what is the underlying mask beneath that, which is, in this case, face skin. So for most faces, what I'll do is start with a little reduced clarity. That's going to hide wrinkles, shadows, things like that. It just smooths the skin just a teeny bit. Also, maybe just a little negative texture. I'll probably do a little extra shadows, add some to the shadows. You want to be gentle with this stuff because you can see bad things happen when you're not gentle. So just a subtle little nudge there. Again, opening the shadow is going to reduce the wrinkles on a face, if any, and just smooth the skin a tiny bit without looking, in my opinion, fake. So there's that. We'll just keep moving up. Next one, I want to do the skin, the rest of the skin, which in this case is her neck. I'm going to do similar things. So a little negative texture, a little negative clarity, little open the shadows just a little bit, and reduce contrast just a little bit. So it's just kind of a nudge on each of those to help smooth the skin just a teeny bit. Pausing here for a note on portrait editing, at least in my opinion and my approach. My approach to portrait editing is to make a person's photo, a two-dimensional rendering of a three-dimensional human being, look more like they look when you're sitting and talking to them, having a conversation, interacting, where you don't stare at all the features individually like you do on a two-dimensional portrait. So what I'm trying to do is just really concentrate mostly usually on the eyes, and then just let the rest of the face be more what it looks like as a normal human being without looking, hopefully, over edited. All right, so back to Carrie. Next up, let's just keep moving up to mask 4. That's going to be the whites of the eyes here. And for this, what I usually do is just add a little extra exposure. How much depends on the person and the lighting that was given in the scene. It's really easy to go too much with this, so don't do that. Usually I keep this about a quarter to maybe a half, plus 0.5 to plus 0.25. Shadows is another way to brighten that up without being obnoxious. So I'll open that just a little bit, and that's pretty good for that. Next, moving up, we've got the iris and pupil. So Carrie's eyes are blue, and they don't really show up that much as blue here. So what I'm going to do is just increase the exposure just a little bit. And again, you can see it's really easy to go too far quickly. So I'm at about 0.25 on the eyes. For this photo, every photo is going to be different. I'm going to add some highlights and whites. How much is just an eyeball thing looking at the photo on my screen. Also add a little texture, a little clarity, just to give a little more snap, a little more crispness to the eyes, the pupils. So I think that works. It makes your eyes really pop without looking, hopefully, like too much. Now we're going to go to the teeth. Similar to what we did with the whites of the eyes, just maybe a little extra exposure, but not too much, not too much. Another way to whiten teeth is to reduce saturation a little bit. Again, not too much or they go gray, but just pull down the saturation. Just remove some of that color, which is usually a little bit of yellow. Another way you could do that was take the temperature and go just a little bit towards blue. Again, not much. It gets pretty bad quickly. So there's the teeth. And then last but not least, we have the hair. She could have red hair. I'll get to that in a minute. But for now, what I want to do with the hair is usually add a little texture, again, to create separation from the background, help with that, a little clarity. For Carrie's hair, I'll also open the shadows just a little bit, just to brighten the darker parts of her hair and just, again, create extra separation between her and the background. So that's good. If you wanted to, you can color hair. It's pretty amazing how this works. You can give her purple hair. What I've done to do this is I've clicked on the little color box down here in the bottom of the panel, and then just dragging with the eyedropper tool up or down. If you go lower, it's a lower saturation version of the color. If you go higher on the scale, it's a higher saturation version of the color. So you can see you can get pretty wild, but it also shows how good this auto masking is at selecting the hair, but not the background. It's pretty amazing. I'm not going to do that, but I just wanted to show it to you. So I'm going to turn that back to 0 on the saturation, so her hair is the normal color. So that'll complete the work on this photo. Let's move on to photo number 2 for this demonstration. So this photo of Natalie at her wedding, there's a lot of little things going on here that are pulling attention away from Natalie. So what I want to do is stop that. So here we go. As you see, we do have a person down here, but I'm going to start like I usually do with the background. I want to get that settled. So I'm going to click on background. And what I want to do is color all of this stuff a uniform color of green to get rid of that yellow in the grass that was showing up here. So here's how I'm going to do that. Again, just like I did on the hair in that previous example, for this one, I'm going to click on this box that says color. It has an X through it right now, which means no color. And then I'm going to click on it and then pick a color, a green. And I don't want to be too saturated. Again, I don't want this to look fake. So what I'm going to do is dial in a color that looks good to my eye. So I stop there, and then I'm going to close this box. Now, one of the cool things in these masking tools is this amount up here at the top of the masking panel. So I can reduce the intensity of what I just did, or increase it. So it's another fine-tuning control you have in adjusting intensity of an effect you may have applied without going back into the effect and editing it directly. So I'm going to just tune that down just a little bit, but that gets rid of most of the yellowness of the grass here. Actually, I'm going to go back to 0. I do like to 100. So just get as much of the yellow out of the grass as I can. And again, the auto masking did a great job on selecting around her veil and everything, and obviously her upper body. So very nice job. Auto masking is really, really powerful. When I originally edited this photo in 2019, I had to brush all this by hand. It doesn't take terribly long, but it's about 5 minutes, and the mask did it in one click in a couple seconds. To get rid of this distraction of this twig and this little branch over here, I'm going to use the healing brush tool in healing mode. In the previous video, I showed a little more detail on using this tool, but I'll do it kind of quickly here. So I'm just brushing where I want it to replace, and then it's going to grab a sample from a new area, and that did a good job. I'm looking for repeating patterns. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Nice thing about this organic stuff is it does a pretty good job of being able to blend without too much trouble. I think that'll work. Next over here, this little twig, again, it stands out because it's contrast. It's something vertical in the midst of a bunch of natural stuff. I'll just move this over here. There we go. So cleaned up the background. Oh, there's a little bit of yellow here, so let's get that as well. I'll just do a quick stab right there. A little brush, and that'll work. So again, reducing distractions in the background so you can really concentrate on Natalie. So again, with the masking panel open, what I want to do next is just do a little bit on her face and her skin, just a little bit. So I'm going to click Create New Mask from the Mask Panel flyout and go to Select People, and we'll do, for this one, I'm going to select face skin and body skin and just kind of keep it simple at that. It'll work well. It just needs a little nudge. So that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to do the separate mask, click Create Mask, and away we go. So starting with her face, what I want to do here is just open the shadows a little bit. Again, just bring a little more attention to her face, help her pop from that background just a little bit. I'll open the exposure, increase exposure just a little bit, and then go down to the body skin and just do similarly on the shadows mostly. Just brighten that up a little bit, and that's done. So not too much, kind of simple, but it's the little details that can make a big difference in a portrait photo. Next up, I'm going to do some edits on Micah. So what we'll do here is, again, some attention to the background to reduce attention there. And then we're going to do the facial edits as we did with Carrie on the eyes and teeth and hair. Additionally, we're going to do some healing brush on his face in some of the blemish areas, and there we go. So let's get started. For this one, I don't want to do the whole background as far as pulling attention away. What I'm going to do is select an object, which is in this case just an area. It's not really an object, it's going to be this area. So to select the object that I want, I'm going to click on Objects. I'm going to be in the brush mode of the object selection, and just the area I want to select is back here, everything around here. So I'll define the border first with the brush, and then just quickly keeping the mouse held down, because if you let up, it'll start the selection, and just go around and finish this area relatively quickly, and then let Lightroom do its magic for figuring out what I meant. So it's masked this area, which is too bright. It's got too much brightness, so it's pulling attention away. Also, we've got this yellow again, so I'm going to do the same thing I did on Natalie's photo, get some green in there. How much and what color, it's again kind of an eyeball thing. Want to reduce intensity of that, so just something like that. Looks good. I'm going to pull down the highlights in that as well. And that helps. So reducing that brightness there, reshaping that light brings more attention to Micah's face. So let's work on Micah's face. So here we go. Again, in the flyout mask panel, go to Select People And I'm going to click on mica and then get the individual face parts that I want. We want the skin, body skin. Again, I don't usually do eyebrows, sclera, iris and pupil. His lips are fine. Teeth, he doesn't have any teeth showing, and hair. We'll do all that, create 5 separate masks. Just that quick and easy, folks. So let's start with the face. Overall, again, what I'm going to do here is just brighten it up just a tiny bit, not too much. Give them just a little more light. Also add a little, open the shadows just a little bit. Looks like the exposure is too much now. Gonna pull that down just a bit. And I'll do a little negative clarity, smooth the skin just a little bit. And I think that looks good on that. Next up is the neck, in this case, the body skin. Again, just a little extra exposure, kind of to match what we did with his face. And little shadows, little negative clarity. And there we go. Let's see, what else we got? Next, we'll do the whites of the eyes. So we'll click on that. And again, we'll just brighten that up just a little bit. Eyes are the thing that we really pay attention to in portraits. So I'm doing a little bit of exposure and just a little bit of shadows, increasing both of those to just make that just a bit brighter. Next up are the iris and pupil. So again, he's got really dark eyes. I'm just gonna make the exposure a little brighter on that. We'll do a little bit of highlights and whites extra, add a little texture and clarity, just to give a little extra sharpness and attention to the eyes. Lastly, his hair. For this, we'll just brighten it just a little bit, maybe just with exposure as well as a little bit in shadows. Not too much, but again, just bringing a little definition and separation from the background. That's the goal. And then lastly, for mica, what I want to do is I'm going to zoom in a little bit and work on some of the blemishes on his face. So my approach to editing blemishes on face and facial features is this. If it's something that's going to disappear in 2 weeks or so, I'll go ahead and remove it. If it's a facial feature, then we'll pretty much leave it. And again, my approach is to make the face look normal, like it does when you're talking to the person, but not look plastic and fake and too smooth. So the tool I'm going to use for this is the healing brush tool. So I'm going to start, there's a little stray hair on the left side of his face over here. I'm going to go to a small brush, which I'm making smaller by using the scroll wheel on my mouse. Next, there's a couple little blemishes. I'll just do a little click there, there. There's one over here. There's a few. That's feeling pretty good. So for those blemish removals, I used opacity of the healing brush at 100%. For the next little bit, so like on his chin, a little bit on his nose, I don't want to completely erase that because it's going to smooth the skin too much. I'm going to decrease the opacity of the brush to a little bit less, to about 50 or 60, and I can always adjust it after the fact. So down here on his chin, I'm just going to brush in this area to remove those blemishes, and it's going to sample from his wherever I tell it, but it defaults to around his neck, which is a nice smooth bit of skin with still a little bit of texture. And if I don't like the opacity, I can adjust down or up even after I brush it. So I want a little bit of that to show through. I mean, that's just part of being a teenager. Next up here on his nose, just a little smaller brush, a little brush here. And let's see, might pull from his forehead or above. Let's go to his kind of a smooth spot on his forehead. Again, with a relatively low opacity. So it just smooths a little bit. I'm not trying to make it look perfect, just like a natural human being when you're standing there visiting and talking to him. So there we go. Additionally, there were some spots on his shirt I didn't notice. So I'll just quickly spot remove all those individual clicks on the spots. It just takes a second. And then that will complete this edit. So let's do a before and after so you can see the change. So let's do a quick before and after. I've noticed that the usual before and after doesn't work quite the same with these masks, at least in the new version that I have. So the best way to see what it looks like without these masks applied is in the mask flyout, panel to click this little toggle to turn off the masks. So that's what we started with. That was before, and here's after. So it's bringing some more attention to Micah, brightening him up, darkening the background, and away we go. One more photo kind of integrating all of the things we've talked about so far is this photo of Danielle and Boris at their wedding day. And it was a tricky exposure with that hazy, bright sky close to sunset. But it was a neat moment. The day was kind of wrapping up, so it was the only time to do this photo. So again, we're going to start, as I do in most of these photos, when there's a background problems. I'm going to start there by selecting the background with the mask panel. And then let's make some edits. Now, this selected parts of Boris's head, a little bit of her crown of flowers here, so I need to subtract a little bit from the background. I'm going to click subtract, and then I'm going to subtract with a brush, and just around here, go there, and brush around his head where it's got some of the mask happening, a little bit over here on the flowers. And I think that mostly takes care of that. So what I want to do with the background is, as I've done before, is pull attention away from that. One way to do that is to reduce the exposure. And then also I'm going to reduce saturation just a little bit in the background. So that's a good start. As you probably are noticing, because I sure am, the sky is yuck. So I want to do what I can with it without hopping into Photoshop and replacing the sky. So the next edit I want to make is to the sky by creating a new mask and then going to select sky. So now I have my sky mask, and it also has a bit of them in it. So I will need to subtract again, go to brush, and delete them from this sky mask. So give me just a second. You don't have to be real precise in this, especially when the sky doesn't have any detail in it, but just go quickly, but not too quickly. All right, so with the sky selected, again, what I want to do is I'm going to try and make that a little darker so I can maybe pull some details out, but it's just going to go to gray kind of quickly, which is not what I want. So what I'll do is add a little dehaze to pull out any detail that might be there, not too much because there's not much there, as you can see. So just a little bit. I'm trying to give a little bit of texture there for what I'm going to do next, which is add some color for it to hold on to. So down here in the color, I'm going to click on that box and go pick a saturated blue, and right about there maybe is kind of what the sky might look like. Then pull down the saturation and get some extra blue in that sky, but not hopefully look fake. Goal here is just to give a little extra to the sky, not so it's just got a little something there for attention and contrast, but not to look fake. All right, next what I want to do is I want to do some edits on each of them. They're a little bit in the shadow, or their bodies are creating shadow, so their clothes are a little blue. So what I want to do is go back to the mask panel, create a mask, and I'm going to go to select people. So the cool thing about this select people function is I can treat them individually. So it creates two separate masks or masking opportunities, one for each person. So I'm going to start with Boris, and I'm just going to do the entire person to start, and I'll create that mask. And what I want to do here is, as I mentioned, I want to do a little color correction with the temperature slider. So I want to push things towards the warmer tones on his shirt. So I just added a little bit of temperature. Again, it's easy to go too far with this, so just a little nudge there. Also for him, his shirt's really white, so I want to pull down some of the highlights and whites. You'll notice it's also affecting his face because I did the whole person, so I'm trying to keep this all somewhat in moderation. Next, we'll go and do similar to Danielle, so create a new mask, go to select people, click on her, and do the entire person mask, create mask. So on her, all I really feel like I need to do is just nudge the temperature just a little bit again towards the warm, maybe just a little extra exposure to brighten her up just a little bit, and there we go. So I think that completes the edits on these photos, and I'm really grateful for the power and speed of these artificial intelligence masking tools, because they make this so much quicker and reduce friction, which means for me especially, it means I'm more likely to work on the edit. So here's the after, here's without the masks. So that's where we started. Here's with the mask. So that completes this video about the AI masking tools in Adobe Lightroom Classic and CC for 2023, released in October 2022. These tools are pretty amazing. They reduce friction so much that now I'm more likely to make some edits that I might have passed over in the past because they were work. So now they're less work, and so I'm much more likely to do it. And anything that speeds up workflow and gets me back to creating more photos, I think is a good thing. So if you have any questions on this video or the other two in this series about new features in 2023 Lightroom Classic and Lightroom CC, please leave a comment below. Also, you can see those other videos in the links in the description below. And I think that completes this process. Look forward to seeing you in future videos. If you liked what you've seen so far, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I would greatly appreciate that, and look forward to seeing you in future videos. So until I see you again, stay safe, stay well, and have fun creating photos. Bye for now.